commitment to work, and we will forward this meeting today in that spirit. My name is Jen Parsons. I serve as the co-chair of this committee, and I'll be facilitating today's meeting. I appreciate the opportunity to help and guide our conversation and ensure we have a productive, thoughtful, and collaborative discussion. Today's meeting will focus on two important areas. First, the discussion and recommendations related to the New Hope Center. And second, a conversation around what information hospitals may know, need to know, or before releasing a family after newborn delivery. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I'd like to go around for introductions. If we'd like to go, that would be wonderful. Ms. Crystal, would you like to start?
Yes, and I also wanted to note that I started recording as well. So my name is Crystal Edwards, Secretary Gateman's Executive Assistant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikia McKnight. I'm the Chief Policy Advisor here at BSCY.
Hi, everyone. Karen Eller. Good afternoon. I am an educator here in Delaware.
Hello, Erin Scott, Kidstown, Delaware.
I'm Zoe Rawheiser. I work at the Delaware State Housing Authority in the Division of Homelessness Initiatives.
And I think we have Shanda.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. I am Shonda Jackson. I work with DHSS out of the Office of the Secretary on Housing, but I also serve on Capital School Board, which is why I think I might be here as well. So,
Wonderful.
Hello.
Did we miss anyone? Okay. I'd like to go over the review of minutes from May 18th. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, additions, or deletions of those minutes? All right. Hearing none, I need a motion to approve those minutes, please.
Motion to approve.
Motion set. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay. Minutes from last month are approved. So on the agenda that you guys got, we'll keep this very informal. I just like to do the formal things at the beginning. I want to move our discussion to regarding the New Hope Center and gather recommendations that the committee would like to include. This is an important conversation for Delaware because families across Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex, we face the housing instabilities, transportation barriers, food insecurity, behavioral health needs, domestic violence concerns, and challenges navigating available services. The Hope Center has the potential to serve as a meaningful connection point for individuals and families who need immediate support, coordinated referrals, and pathways. So I'd like to start off with what services should we prioritize at or through the Hope Center? Now that's a lot of information. And I'll just get it going. Kent County's Hope Center. If you were at the conference last week, there, the state's very excited about this. This is a great initiative, and my understanding it's going to be open in a shelter capacity come fall. So, wanted to bring this to the committee to find out what services are there. What should be prioritized from your lens?
I can start off. So there's a few things. Am I heard okay?
Yes.
There's a few things top of mind. So I think a lot of us are getting caught in this, like what's at the current and in that model and what is possible to take down south. So there is a pilot currently at Newcastle County Hope Center, serving many, many families. And I don't believe there are funds to just like take it down. But I am eager to see what can be translated, maybe like written into a grant to get more to replicate. And then I know that this is something very small, but I think has a lot of potential. There was a 1 month, like super discreet pilot that was done through Parents as Teachers. So like a home visiting avenue, but parents and teachers is so visiting, but it's not medical. So it's like very education based, developmental screenings, milestones. They just did a 1 month pilot. I think they went every week, and they were able to have a lot of good contact. And one connection I made was a woman that I talked to who truly got housing because of her parent educator. Like that was the connection that made close the final gap for her. Her parent educator, through parents and teachers keeping her in the loop. And they have parent education, and then there's also like the developmental side for kids. So I am eager to see if that can, and that's statewide, I'm eager to see if that can be on the ground as Kent opens up, and what else can mirror that. My colleagues that I serve, and this is all in the same line, the Help Me Grow space is the same, like in support of developmental screenings and support like that whole child aspect. So that's kind of like a trio, I think, together. I don't know if anyone here is closely involved with the current Hope Center pilot, Family Hope Project. If you are, speak up so I'm not just rambling forever. But I am in the process of getting more information on how that's going and can relay that to this group.
Erin,
So in full I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask for clarification for my notes. Is the first pilot the Family Hope Project?
Yeah.
That was the first one to talk about?
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
it's a CIPRA funded.
Super funded.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
in full transparency, I do work for the YWCA of Delaware.
Yes,
So
that's
we're running that pilot program, and it's very successful. Now, in all honesty, I don't know the ins and outs of it all, but when we in our leadership meeting last week, they were talking about how this program has just leaps and bounds. And I think to your point about parents as teachers, we talked about last meeting how these milestones might not be able to be measured until 10, 15 years later, but we need to start at that young age with those screening tools. And with the parents as teachers given this information, that parent education can secure that housing. So we're killing two birds with one stone, I think, and I totally agree. I'd love to hear some more thoughts around this. Okay. I can tell you from the housing conference, if you were there last week, it was great. Put on by Delaware State Housing Authority. It was wonderful. But I can tell you in some of the breakout rooms, the conversation was, and Carrie Casey really hit on this. And if you don't know who Carrie Casey is, she is the, this was her concept, the Hope Center many years ago. So she has been the director and running that program. What they found was the most successful, and their ideas to us as the Y of what to do to help make the Kent County Hope Center better is to listen to our clients. They said it was only a week that they got to do that, but they had town meetings where they'd come and sit out on the sidewalk and talk to the residents, talk to the homeless. What do you want to see? What services do you want? So that's talking to the homeless, that's talking to any unhoused, people living in their cars with or without children, with or without animals, people that maybe conversations going, because what is needed in Kent County isn't necessarily what's needed in Sussex or Newcastle. So it's different. She voiced that they had no transportation. DART was not even a thought. And that was like, what are we going to do? The Hope Center's here. There's no transportation. They made that come to life. So they were able to, make sure DART was there or Lyft. So those are some common things that I think we need to think about when we're talking to our families to see how we can help families and children specifically with the Hope Center and what their needs are. So I think that focus group, if we have the ability to reach out and start scheduling those sooner than later. And I don't know where that falls in, Zoe, and what the plans are going on. But that's what, she did recommend that was the best thing that she could have done was talk to the constituents of what the people were going to serve.
I'm not privy to those sorts of conversations of what goes on with the planning with the Hope Center. But I do work with, at least with the grant management side of things a lot. And like with the new Home for Good state funded grant management or grant that's been opened up. There have been organizations that have signed up and offering sort of like innovative ideas of who to help and how. So maybe that could be an avenue of reaching out to those organizations, and they might have clients or have another perspective to offer for some of that feedback.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Anyone else have any thoughts about maybe a clear and simple pathway of how we can get pregnant individuals, newborns, like since we've been tasked with the families and children and teens, that's going to be a special onset that we need. And primarily, unless it comes across your desk, you really don't think about that. So I'd really like us to be really mindful about and intentional of speaking to those folks that have those needs and how we can best serve them in that area. These are just a couple questions that I came up with maybe to start some dialogue. What referral process can we make it easier for people to get to the Hope Center? And I know things have changed since I was involved with the Hope Center years ago when it first came to fruition, but is it easier for, McKinney-Vento to suggest that referral, to send that out? Can community organizations do that referral? Does it go through the COC, which it probably will? But who can make those referrals to the COC? Law enforcement, service providers. How can we ensure that no families are left out due to lack of awareness, distance, transportation, abilities or disabilities? Far as, maybe somebody's in a wheelchair and do we have wheelchair accessibility? Those are things that they came up with and came into because they opened it so quickly. So yes, we're going to have an emergency capacity, but I can tell you in Kent and Sussex, we don't have family shelters. So this is a whole new opening for us, and we're going to be flooded. I say they're going to be flooded. Let me take my YWCA hat off. They're going to be flooded with referrals. And we got to make sure that they're ready and that they have the best opportunity and suggestions from our committee.
Karen, there was something you wanted to share?
Sure.
Please.
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. I think it would be really great if there could be a small team put together in the Hope Center that would service the school districts, that would serve as liaisons directly to the school districts, where they could possibly set up direct referrals when a family presents in crisis. That they could directly refer to the Hope Center and get that support right away. So possibly also working with the Department of Education, the McKinney-Vento office, reaching out to the visiting teachers across the county that work directly in the schools as well, and for the districts might also be an avenue where we can bring some visiting teachers to the table. We could also bring some district liaisons and school liaisons to the table for a town hall or a discussion on what they see as some of the needs of their families as well. So the more voices we can bring in to get feedback on what's working and what's not, and some of those biggest barriers for families in Kent County.
Yeah, that was gonna.
Oh, go ahead, Shonda.
No, I was gonna say that was gonna be my suggestion as well. I think that sometimes the staff within the schools feel disconnected from like the services and like who to contact. So I know within Capital we have parent community liaisons. We have the resource center now where people can go and do laundry and utilize computers to be able to look for jobs or take a training or what have you. And so I think that connection with the schools and the people that are actually on the ground doing the work, I think is going to be vital in order to, directly impact families. I think schools find out more, with the kids being there and them talking than what you would typically find out from, an adult. So I think I'm sorry, I don't remember your name when we did introductions, but just as she was just saying, that connection is going to be vital in helping, this population for sure. And also ensuring like the transportation component, because like if kids, you know, I know McKinney-Vento, they provide the transportation, but like if they needed to go to the library, you know, if they had research that they needed to do or needed to stay after school or things like that, like looking into in Kent County, you know, transportation systems are not the greatest. And so like just looking into like bus passes for them in those situations. Um, you know, I know Capital, we have like 21st Century that stay after school. So like things that happen after school, ensuring that, you know, we don't disrupt whatever their normal, you know, schedule is for our young kids, then, you know, I think that'd be helpful as well.
I think too, schools
I
are the
think
direct
all of
line
these are great
to.
ideas.
Let me give it to them.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I also think schools are that direct line to identify chronic absenteeism, which could be the first identifier in noticing that a family or student is displaced. So really understanding that piece and student attendance and making sure students are coming to school and just being that direct line to those school districts when they start to notice students aren't showing up and it's related to displacement. I think too, the Hope Center could also, if there is that liaison team that works directly with the schools, they can also make sure students are directed to after school programming as well. And families also can share, Chandra, you shared some different resources families need, like laundry, transportation, and there's lots of resources out there. So how can we coordinate those efforts and make sure families and those liaisons working with families and our school district are aware of all the resources out there? So having some kind of hub somewhere that really focuses in on identifying those resources, how to connect to those resources and get them directly to families. So families aren't the ones that are trying to locate those resources, which can be very challenging and fragmented at times.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you bring a lot of good points up. When you have a liaison, say at the Hope Center, like that group of folks, that core folks, families, because of pride or whatever, may be more apt to speak to a liaison than they would the school person. So having that buffer, I think, provides a really good outlet and resource and education. Because unfortunately, a lot of our folks don't know about the resources that are out there unless they talk to another parent. So I love that idea. I think that would do great. Good afternoon. We're just discussing how the Hope Center could be prioritized through our committee and what referral services and how we could see families and children being served with the best outcome at the Hope Center because it's going to be opening up in the fall in an emergency capacity. So we're discussing and brainstorming how we could do that. But to your point, and I do apologize, I don't know, I forgot your name that quick. I think that would be great. I know we've talked about it in the past in different committees I've sat on of having that parent liaison, but I think the Department of Education supporting something like that would be fabulous.
And I also think August is a real critical month for back to school and families that are displaced. So if it is going to do an opening in the fall, this is a critical time right now, these summer months where families sometimes get disconnected from schools if they're not actively being followed up with and someone is connecting with them throughout the summer. So reaching out and ensuring students start on time could be a really great support of the Hope Center to make sure there's space available so it doesn't impact students starting school on time. So like Sandra said, laundry services, sometimes students start late to school because they do not have uniforms. If there is a school they're attending that requires uniforms. So there's so many things that may stop a family having their children start on time. So really making that connection between August and the start of school is a critical time to make sure students who are displaced start on time with their peers.
That's a very good point. And I'm wondering, being new to all of this, just like everyone else is, what is that time frame? Can we get together, before our next meeting, because it is almost August, to put like a really quick subcommittee together, a subcommittee of a subcommittee, to see what partners want to come to the table, like the Y and like, everywhere else, Capital School District, Woodbridge School District, Indian River, wherever we're going to go, Delaware State Housing Authority, because all of these back to school events are happening. What better way to put our information out there? So we could brainstorm that as well. And I'm not sure if that, I'd have to check with the secretary. I don't know how that goes, but I think this is a great idea. Even if we can't do this, if we get together in another capacity to move this forward, I love this.
Just having the
Because-
messaging set,
Say again, sorry.
having the messaging set, like from,
Yes.
yeah. And then I think this mirrored for the early care community. They definitely, they could do it. Like, they can provide, they have such a strong provider network in the early care, which crosses over with the school district.
Right.
But there's such a strong provider network. This could be like the same approach to get in touch with their centers. Yeah, that could be just the same thing. Having that same messaging and getting into those same spaces as we're prepping for start of school.
Yeah. I
I
have
had
to
a
agree.
few ideas that, just listening to you guys talk, because you are the expert in this area at least. I do think trauma-informed training with the Hope workers is very important. I get a lot of constituent calls where it just seems like communication wasn't there, and so I think that would be good. Also, to your point, some of these people have already maybe support systems, so bringing them in where we can to just build, bridge that gap where there may be some communication barriers. But I think trauma-informed training, obviously dealing with these clients and families and trying to see the world from their lens is always a help, especially when you're trying to meet a goal. I also think this idea is pretty new. We had a meeting recently, I forgot the program, but they are starting to do like parent support groups. So maybe afternoon during the weekend, and so those parents can connect with people already there in their situations. I think that'd be a good bonus. And then additionally, I see more need for like youth development programming. And that could be just arts, after school programming, something, just to get the youth engaged, because that's a very hard time in their life. And, just to get them to like be able to be as normal, live a normal as much life as you can in those circumstances. And then the last one is, I don't know if the Hope Center currently accepts walk-ins. I don't know if it's referral only, but I was just thinking that's what I was assuming. But in a place like Kent, you're dealing with transportation issues and things like that, and maybe possibly allowing walk-in hours. So, it's not all walk-ins, but just like a limited
For
time.
services,
Yeah.
not just for housing. Okay.
Yeah, and,
It's part of the goal.
okay.
But I don't know.
Like the don't quote me on it.
Trying to be more of like a health hub,
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
given the funding,
Mhm.
that may support. That was shared at one meeting, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's also, there's pieces. But and that, I guess, would that be like a softer entry point? So that you don't always have to have the referral system, yeah, because that's the big thing with the Newcastle County.
Yeah,
And
it
the
is all
parent
referral,
pays.
but I think the health hub, I think from what I'm hearing, that's the model that they want to eventually get to. And I think in that area, to your point, I think we're going to have to. because everybody can walk there. You're going to have college students walking there. You're going to have, college students get displaced, believe it or not. They're homeless. So we're going to have all types of different people. They didn't have that in Newcastle because nobody could really walk to them. So that's a really good point. Trauma-informed care, I can tell you the why. We are all trauma-informed care educated, and we research every year. So I think that's really good. I don't know about the other participants, the other core partners. I think that's a really great idea. And the youth development programming, I'd like to see the warehouse come down. We've had some initial conversations with them. Their
great.
outcomes have been wonderful for youth
Yeah.
programming.
And the parent thing, the parent element is so real, like talking with the Bridge Clinic in Newcastle County, that is the top thing she has shared. Like, it is so much time with your kids, like they cannot leave your site within 6 feet. So the parent support I have heard is such a big thing that would be great to have a really good structure set up already in Kent. All the lessons learned that we could do on the front end for Newcastle.
Exactly. So by the time it gets to Sussex, we'll be the national model.
Yeah. Mark it down.
I don't know if they currently do this in the Newcastle County one, but I know, like you said, about the rules about when you have your children with you, it would be good for families to know what the regulations for the requirements for them are before even coming in, so that way they're more informed, and then it's not as much pushback when you know what you're getting into before you get into it.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. So that they, and I think that's something that we could suggest, that when they have these conversations or we have our town hall, what do you want to see? Because I think once you educate someone and say, listen, you can't come here with X, Y, and Z or 200 bags of things because we don't have no place to put them. Once you explain and educate through Department of Labor, through our parents groups, then they understand. But I think when they don't know what to expect, and that uncertainty raises everyone's anxiety from not only the children's point of view, but from the parents' point of view as well.
So families do not lose their belongings. Maybe there is also a way to have some funding available for families to store their belongings while they're displaced, since there are requirements with what they can bring. So they have a safe space to keep all of their items.
Really good point. I tell you, reality, yes. Carrie mentioned at the conference last week that they can't store a whole lot of stuff. And so that's what made me think about it, because yes, this is going to be a larger area and they're going to have more places, but eventually they're going to be filled up with rooms. So, what is stuff? How much stuff can you bring? If you're a family of 4 with 2 adults, and how much stuff do you get to bring? And then you have the trauma coming in because you're leaving Sally's stuffed animal behind because she can't bring 20 of them. So you have variables going on. Rapid rehousing will pay for moving costs. They also do pay for some storage. But that's specialized. They have to be in rapid rehousing. So again, it's the educational piece of it. And I think we need to start with the parents. I think that's a great idea. The school is going to be our influx of folks that we can recommend. Because to your point, Shonda, the students tell more to the teachers than the parents ever will, unfortunately. We can move on to the next topic. Please feel free to jump in with anything else. I just want to make sure that we hit language access and cultural sensibilities as well, and responsibilities, because I think one of the downfalls that lessons learned was people didn't speak another language. So it's not only Spanish, but in Kent and Sussex, we have a huge Haitian Creole population. And there's a huge stigma with that population that they won't go to a shelter. They will if they're informed. But generally their church or their family members will take care of that population. So it's just educate and let them know that these resources are out there. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. And then from an domestic violence standpoint, with our grants, We do have specialized services with grants coming down now that might be able to help. So we need to make sure that we're including these providers with specialized pilot grants, if you will, that might be taking care of a family with violence, domestic violence against women. And, there's grants out there that pay for 2 years of housing. So if somebody comes in there, that Hope Center needs to be aware of what grants are out there and what partners are providing for them. We need to improve our communication across the state. Let me just leave
Yeah.
it there.
And then paired with immigration, helping families through immigration concerns, especially if as we move down the state.
Exactly.
Calls I am on, they are, stressful. And then I'll also raise, so Alethea's here from DMMA. I can probably share more during public comment, but we work together, and I think having the MCOs, having presence within those starter groups within those town halls, is really important to make sure that continuity of care is there for families, and ensuring the best health access possible, through these.
Yeah.
Well,
And to your point, when people have Medicaid, they don't know their benefits. They don't know what they have. So I strongly encourage when Centene, AmeriHealth, Highmark brings out their, hey, we're having a new orientation. I don't care if they've had it before. I send it out again. They might not have needed that benefit that they're talking about. So knowledge is power, and knowing that, hey, they pay for transportation, they pay for doulas, whatever that might be. But I absolutely agree that MCO education needs to be a part of that as well.
And I think the other piece to that MCO education is that understanding members do not have to accept care coordination, but care coordination opens so many doors that the MCOs can't go out and say, please, please, we want you to be, have a care coordinator. They cannot force anyone to accept care coordination, but that might be the time. This is one of those times where we really want to support individuals and recognizing the benefits of care coordination. The MCOs have their own, they provide assistance with housing, right? So that is where this would tie in with it. And there's just, as you said, there are so many other benefits that no one knows to utilize. But if they had that care coordinator,
Yes.
that care coordinator is tying them to where they have those issues. And I've spoken to individuals who have no idea what it is that the MCOs do other than provide medical coverage, right? And this is a good time for the community to educate individuals as to what services they're being provided.
Yeah, that's really great information. And like you said, they do offer housing. So if we have them educated about, okay, I'm going to tap into that first, because usually it's a one-time lifetime benefit. Then they can tap into rapid rehousing. They register for that, and they're at the Hope Center. What else can I have? And before you know it, they have their first month's rent, probably second or third month, and security deposit, and they're on their way.
Yeah.
And it's coordinating all of these things together, like someone said earlier, to make sure that you're having one conversation and they're not having to repeat their whole life story again and be trauma and saying it again.
Yeah, I think the best analogy I could probably give is the MCOs are the ocean, right? And you're in the ocean and you're just swimming along and you run into rough waters. The MCOs are that boat. They are the boat that's coming to rescue you. But you cannot get on that boat if you don't know about it. And the best way to know everything that is offered is to have a care coordinator. I would, recommend everyone do that Jedi mind trick, as I like to call it, that thing that says, hey, you do know that you are entitled to A, B, C, and D. You need to really have a care coordinator. that's the one thing that kind of helps to direct needs because they look at each individual as an individual.
Yeah, I love that. In full transparency, I used to work for an MCO, and yes, I think that's wonderful because people don't know what they don't know. And
Yeah.
sometimes your client will teach you.
Yes. Yes.
Jen, a couple of things I wanted to mention. Is there an opportunity for us in the next couple of weeks to possibly meet with Carrie Casey and the individuals at the Hope Center that directly work with school-age children and their families, and see what some of their barriers are, what families are sharing as barriers, what they've encountered as barriers at the Hope Center? I think it would be great if we go directly to them as well to give us some insight and feedback. And I'm not sure if there's any discussions for or opportunities for childcare at the Hope Center. Families who are working shifts outside of the school day hours are limited as well to some of the regulations that are set at the Hope Center. Meaning that if there was childcare available, families would be able to better keep their job and have that childcare support at the Hope Center while having a stable place to sleep at night. So I'm not sure if there's been any discussions of adding childcare or what supports can be put in place for that. So families are able to work outside of those school hours while children are at school.
Couple things that did come up last week, that if there was one thing that she was asked, if there was one thing that you could do differently, what would it be if you had all the money in the world? She said daycare. So that is definitely being discussed, whether it gets implemented here or not, but I think that's a great segue to bring our purchase of care coordinators or purchase of care folks in, or our daycare centers that are having openings and bring them to the table, or at least let them know, here's the list. And here's how you apply. A lot of people, not to go down that rabbit hole, but they don't realize they can get purchase of care 3 months before they start working to look for a job. Correct me, Miss or Dr. Miller. I'm not employed. I can't get purchase of care. Yes, you can. You have to tell them I'm looking for a job. So I think bringing them in one. And the second point, yes, we can definitely bring Carrie in. She's very much about helping people barriers. And did I hear you say you'd like to include some of the school liaisons, like if that's what they have up there in that conversation?
Yes, the individuals that work directly with families at the Hope Center.
Okay, great. So I can reach out to Carrie and schedule that. Would we want to do that on a Zoom, I assume?
Yeah, that would
Would
be
you want to?
wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, I can set that up and I can send out a poll if you want of what dates would be best based upon her availability. And gather some case managers as well, if that would be helpful before our next meeting.
Yeah, that would be great, or even go directly to the Hope Center where we could meet with staff directly in their space and see what we can do to help support.
We can do either one. She does do open tours on Wednesdays, or we can schedule, I would recommend us scheduling a time so that it's dedicated to us and our questions. I can do either or. Which is the group consensus say? Maybe it depends upon the date because of the time of year it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Miller.
I was just going to suggest also reaching out to Head Start. They have full day programs, and depending upon the age of the child, that might be a good a start. And then the other thing is sometimes daycare, I think, only go up to 11 if they go up that high. But the thing is, some parents have younger children and they can't leave them unattended. And that it may be good to just look at other programs like PAL and the Y and programs such as that, especially during the summer.
It's a good point. And there's a Boys and Girls Club in Milford. They provide transportation, and we also have one in Seaford. That's kind of like the best we have,
Yeah.
in conjunction with the warehouse. I mean, the warehouse has set that bar really high, but the Boys and Girls
That's
Club's
good.
been around for a long time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
great idea as well. So I'll schedule that, and let everybody know via email, with Crystal's assistance of what we can come up with.
And don't forget PAL.
Yes, PAL too, yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Move on to the next one for the sake of time, really quick. It's just as important, but maternal and newborn health. What does that look like? How can the hospitals and families provide stability before they discharge them? You know, we hear horror stories of people being discharged, and the nurse is checking the car seat's secure. They got a brand new car seat given to them, but they don't ask them where they're going. They might be going down to the corner at the Walmart and parking in the parking lot. So I'll open up the floor to discuss, it's a major discussion. I know we're running out of time, but I do want to hit on it. What are the key areas the hospital needs to assess and understand before discharging? Whether the family has a safe place to go, is the newborn in a safe sleep space, and whether they have transportation to the follow-up appointments. So I'll be quiet and give you guys the floor.
All right. It's me again. MCO, MCO, MCO. And this is a good place for the hospitals to be in contact with the MCO, to talk to that care coordinator. This is also a good space for doulas, having doulas. We have Medicaid doulas now, and that postpartum period extends out for 12 months. So this is a good place. Those doulas are gonna be able to recognize those things that are gonna happen postpartum ahead of time. And if they're working with the MCOs, it's a good way to kind of fill the gap.
And it's a good introduction point, Dr. Miller, I think, because if you're saying people don't want to sign up for care coordination, if they have a child, they'll just think it's part of the services. It's normal to have a care coordinator. I mean, that's my thought, the way
Yeah.
it goes.
I think people don't recognize the benefit of having it. I think they just see it as one more person in my business, calling me, bothering me, asking me how this was. You don't want that. I don't want it. Nobody wants it, right? I hear it from my insurance carrier, right? But this is one of those times where they're there to fill those gaps, and they're there to provide that individual those assessments, as well as their those needs, addressing those social health needs. That's huge, huge, huge for the MCOs. And it is also important when you have someone who has a substance use disorder, right? That's where you get to catch it with the doula and with the care coordination. It is an amazing it's like that trifecta, right? The person, the doula, and the MCO. So this is I have a doula who calls me constantly and is quick to say, Dr. Miller, this parent she's having issue with housing. I've worked it out with housing. We also have a postpartum nutrition benefit, that the sooner they're engaged, the better, right? It lasts for 12 weeks, and it also includes diapers and wipes.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the best thing. I just keep going back to the MCO. No, it's an untapped resource. And if the hospitals communicate with them, even better.
Yeah. I think that point serves so many people well, especially our non-English speaking folks, because some of these folks don't know parenting, or maybe their parenting in their country is a little bit different than here.
Yeah.
So I think that's that opportunity for education.
Yeah.
And maybe it is, I don't want to use the word mandate, Dr. Miller, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. But when I was a young mom, you went to the hospital. We had people come to our house. Highmark was standard back then. They said, I just thought it was normal 30 years ago. Okay, you come to the house,
Yeah.
check the me out,
Yeah.
check the baby out. But then they're able to see the house. They're able to see if you are under the influence. They're able to see, oh, the lights aren't on. Oh, you couldn't flush the toilet. Why? My water's off.
Yeah.
So there's also that aspect of it as well.
Yeah. I was a home visiting nurse with public health. So, and we would get our referrals from the hospital. So it was that direct communication with the hospital. If we had a mom who had SUDS and the baby was a NAS baby or NOWS baby, Dr. Paul would reach out directly to us. So there, I just can't express how important it is for the hospitals to begin to have that relationship with the MCOs, to kind of really wrap their hands around that mom, that
Yeah.
family. It's really important. And if we can get that on board, and actually the MCOs complain about it. They would love for the hospital to begin to reach out. There at one point that they were doing it, but now they're not. If we can get them back on board, that would be great.
So maybe my idea would be a suggestion of convening I'm gonna use your word, town hall from earlier, of the MCOs and the hospitals. It's not like we have 30 of them. And a round table, if you will. And we're not discussing money. We're discussing increasing your enrollment, which is vital for some of these MCOs in Delaware.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And you
If
may
not, we're
want
gonna-
to invite Delaware Perinatal Quality Collaborative. Does a lot of great work, and may be able to kind of give that a little bit of nudge. It's just something, everything that we're doing now involves care coordination in some way. And in the community, they had no idea what the MCOs did.
They think it's
And
all
now
long-term
it's
care.
said.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
They think you have to have a long-term chronic illness in order to have care
Yes.
coordination. That's the misconception
Yes.
I run into.
Yes.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's relevant to, I was just thinking, so someone will get, like win the bid for being like the health system, just like Christiana has the floors at Newcastle. But that all hasn't been announced for Kent, but this week, so there will be a default. However, we have to think beyond that for our moms and babies, because we don't know where they're gonna be discharged from. And there will be a key connection, but I think we have to hold the county accountable to not forget other providers that could be funneling in. Even though there will be, like we said, somebody will get the place, for that, like general health services. But it's different, like we need to keep sounding the alarm that this is different than being like chronic care stability that's offered currently at the Hope Center. This is different than the Bridge Clinic. It's critical points
Yeah.
for families.
Yeah.
And
And
that
so much is
postpartum-
happening right now. So much. ACOG just put out a position statement, and the position statement is about OB's partnering with doulas.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yes.
Huge for ACOG to have put that out there, and even describes why and how they should. But that's just a sign of the things that are happening around. Maternal child health is like the biggest part. I know in DHSS, it's huge, right? And it's becoming even more huge within the CBOs. The other people you want to have on there are the FQHCs.
Yes. Yes. I agree. Yeah. The amount of deaths that we're having in the state, I don't need to tell. Yeah, we're all ladies, all honestly. It's unreal. It's absolutely unreal, the statistics I've been reading recently. So Dr. Miller, to your point, I was at an MCO 5 years ago, and that was the hot topic as well. So I think getting everybody on the same referral system. And what does that look like? Some people use Unite Us. Some people use, you can use the COC. Some people use, it just depends what they want to use and what
Yeah.
intersects with Epic at the hospitals.
Yeah, and everyone's changing to Epic now. All of the hospitals throughout the state will be, I think by the end of the year, are supposed to be all aligned with Epic.
Which is wonderful because it can interface with Unite Us. Just putting that little plug out there, just trying to make sure we can communicate versus sending an email or a voicemail to someone to see if somebody followed up with that.
Yeah,
Just putting it out.
hospitals and FQHCs.
Oh,
All.
FQ. Oh, okay.
Yeah, all of them.
I was not
So
aware of
everyone will
that. Was any,
communicate. Yes.
okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think a regional resource guide would be great as well. We tried to do this many years ago, if some people remember, and the hospitals were going to take in charge, and then COVID happened. So that's something we might want to think about too in these town halls that we're having when we bring the parents in, the MCOs in. Now, I will give it to the MCOs. Their resources page is great, all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
But people need to know how to access them. And
Yeah.
in Sussex County, you got to have reliable internet. So
Yeah.
we got to have a place for them to go to, like Shanda said, to access that computer, to get on there to see what resources they have.
When's the last time you went on your insurance company's website?
Dr. Miller, you are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. And that's what don't you know you have this benefit? No, I didn't.
No. No.
Just as guilty as the next person.
Yep.
Yep.
Life is
Yep.
just you were too busy lifing. We don't have time to go fish on it. That is why. And that would be my conversation with them. That is
I
why
like that.
you need a care coordinator to
I
do
like
all of
that.
that for you.
Yes. Yes. I like that. This has been a great discussion. I think we need to start with our next steps. But before then, does anybody have any announcements from the respective agencies or updates that anybody would like to talk about or provide to us?
Can I just add something to what Dr. Miller has been sharing? I just want everyone to remember that reluctancy to reach out for support and help could be the result of how a family may have been treated. So that having some family liaison and coordination team, a strong one put together that can even work with the medical team, the discharge team in the maternity department, and also work to identify some of those needs prior to discharge would be extremely beneficial for families, so they can have that caring individual from beginning through discharge to provide that support and trusting relationship too.
And I think, yeah, I that's
Great
a really
point.
great point Dr. Miller said about the doulas, because they're available to be there 12 months postpartum. So that's your warm handoff. They were there before. They know what's going on from the hospital, like you said, and they don't have to be re-traumatized if they had a bad experience, because that warm
Yes.
handoff is taking place.
Yeah. They're there as soon as they find out about the pregnancy. They're there with them during labor and delivery. And they get a special little bonus for attending that labor and delivery, right? So they're there throughout for 12 months. And we added additional postpartum visits. And there's a way for them to get even more of those postpartum. Right now, I think there are 8 postpartum visits, and they can stretch that out how they choose. But there's a way for them to get more. So that is, the doula is an important piece to this. And the MCOs are training the doulas, providing education on preeclampsia, on different topics to ensure that they are going out in that space and knowing what they're doing and knowing what they're saying.
Okay. And they do, just for my knowledge, because I don't know, they're 1099 with DMMA?
They
Okay.
they are their own provider. They
Okay.
have to have a business license, an MPI, and liability insurance in order to participate. And Medicaid does not do home births.
That's a good point.
We do not, we will not reimburse for home births. We do know, there are doulas out there who'll do those home births. But we do not support it, and it is something that is not allowed.
Good to know. Crystal, any other updates before I move on to public comment?
Just the next meeting would be September 31st,
Okay, September 31st,
same time at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. I think that was already on the calendar previous, right? It's the same date.
Yeah, that's one of the first dates one of the next dates we talked about at the last meeting.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
You know what? That is a good point.
Wait a minute, you say 30th or 31st?
I've had 31st in the agenda, but I mean the meeting minutes, but let me pull up my calendar, because I think you're right.
I do
It
have
is supposed to be September 28th. I
September
just went off of
28th.
what he said, but it would be September 28th is that last Monday.
So glad he asked you.
Yes, I just went off of what he said. I didn't go off of the calendar. But yes, September 28th.
Okay.
And there is no 31st to Aaron's.
Okay, yeah.
I would do that too. I would. do
No
that too.
worries. Okay. And I will get with Carrie to see if we can have an in-person and or a Zoom meeting. It might be able to be hybrid for people that want to go, we can see, and then add people on at the end of the tour for any questions with Carrie, if that's okay with everyone. And I'll get that out as soon as possible. Crystal, do we have anybody here for public comment?
I see Nicola Fitchett in the, on the meeting, and she's not part of the regular subcommittee. So if she wanted to speak up, now would be the time.
Wonderful. Welcome.
I didn't have a public comment. I am from the University of Delaware. I am a Lynn trainee, just here to observe.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. This has been a great discussion. We have 1 minute to spare. I was scared that we were going to go over. I don't like to monopolize people's time, but we did get started a couple minutes late. I want to thank Crystal and the hospitality for helping facilitate this meeting while the secretary was away. I want to thank everybody for their time and attention to these matters and this important subcommittee. If anybody doesn't have anything else, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. First and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, without hearing any nays, everyone had said aye. I wish you guys a great week, and I'll be in contact. And thank you for everything you do for the community. It is greatly appreciated. And I thank you for a great conversation today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Those are the conversations. Got it.